Hey guys, my name is Illusive, and today we're going to be talking about the Archery gear build. Now I'm going to be covering Trickster, Ebonsong, Shadehunter, Primeval, and Stone Arrow all in this video. Last video I did was the top 5 archery builds for ArcheAge Unchained, so this is going to be more in depth of the gear build. I did one specifically for Ebonsong a little bit back, but I've I've looked at a couple of the patch notes, some people saying some things like Sceptre, and now that I've really looked into it, because I never really thought of using a Sceptre, it is actually a pretty good idea, and I'll tell you why in a couple, or for a lot of reasons. So right here, the basic gear build is going to be kind of the same. It's going to be very similar to the Ebonsong build. The only thing that's really going to change is the Stone Arrow build. And I'll talk about that here in a second. Now, for this, if you want a really in-depth, like, long video about the gear, you can look at the Ebonsong guide. That kind of applies to most archers, everything but Stone Arrow. But I'm just gonna be going over these pretty quickly. If you need to look at something, I'll hover over for a second so you can pause the video and look at that if you need to. But let's start out here. This is around 10k gear score. This is all tier 2 Haram except for the bow, which is tier 3. Most of the gear score is the gems in it, so don't be too frightened by the gear score. It's mostly gems, and those you'll be adding over time. Now, for the Haram Guardian Cap, I socketed this with range attack, and then for the synthesized effects, you want agility, melee damage reduction, and resilience. Now, for the melee damage reduction, if you really want to, you can go max health, or you can go shield defense pin. It's really whatever you want to do. Personally, I think melee damage reduction is going to help a lot due to the mass influx of melee, especially with Swiftblade coming. So this is Haram with 3-piece Disciple, and Disciple is the library gear. And I think in 6.0, I'm not too sure, we will be having T2 Disciple, so we'll be able to upgrade that and have better versions of that. But for the next one is the Jerkin, and what I did here is that you can have this fully socketed out with resilience, but what I did is I had 3 things of melee damage reduction in here just to get it to the about 25% mark, 25-26%, to help out a little bit. So you're basically cutting the melee damage you get by a quarter. So for this, you just want 2 or 3 things of melee damage reduction in there, with the rest socketed into resilience. You also want, for the synthesized effects, agility, melee damage reduction, melee damage reduction, and resilience. Those are the 3 things that you want, and that's mostly what this gear is going to have in terms of armor. Those are going to be the synthesized effects. Now for this, for the Disciples belt, you want piercing shot damage, which piercing shot is Blazing Arrow. Blazing Arrow is a really good move for archers, does a lot of damage, especially with steady shooting. You'll do a lot more damage because you can shoot it 3 times while under steady shooting. Now with Disciples guards, you want range attack in them, and with Disciples you won't be able to synthesize effects with them, so these are mostly just the gemstones. And then now for the fists, you want evasion rate in them, and the reason why is evasion's actually going to be really good for archers. You don't want to full spec into it because you will hinder yourself a little bit, but having a good amount of evasion is really good, as you can see right here with this build. And I've only have evasion on the earrings equipped in the gloves, and then the flute I have about almost 40%, which is really good. The only thing about evasion, here's a note, is that if you get backstabbed, evasion does not help. Backstab is a guaranteed hit. But moving on, for the fist, you do want, for the synthesized effects, you want agility, melee damage reduction, and resilience. Like I said, that's mostly what's going to be on most of the armor pieces. For the cloak, I just have the Delphinad cloak, guild cloak right here with the attack speed for right now. You can agility, you can put agility. What I would probably do for your cloak, it's agility, stamina, and then intelligence. And I'll tell you why intelligence here in a second. With intelligence, you get a little bit of magic attack. Not much, but a little bit. And so right here with Radiant, or with the pants, you want to do the same thing as the jerkin, where you want to have a little bit of it as the melee damage reduction gems, and then the rest of it as toughness. For the synthesized effects, you want agility, melee damage reduction, and resilience. Now for the boots, you want the disciple boots. Now these gems are whatever you pretty much want it to be. You can do more range attack if you feel like you need more attack. You can do movement speed like I have here if you feel like you need more kite ability. You can also do resilience if you feel like you need more defense. It depends on what you want to do and your playstyle. Personally, I like having the movement speed, but if you can't decide on something, or if you want to wait it out a little bit, I would suggest doing the boots last for the gemming, and then see what you want, what you feel like you need towards the end of the build, and just go from there. Now for the undergarments, you can do one or two things. I highly suggest actually going attack speed instead of range damage in here. You'll lose a little bit of range damage, but the attack speed is going to help for a reason. With the endless arrows, flame, you'll be shooting a lot slower, but you'll be doing a lot more damage. So the more attack speed you'll have, ultimately the more DPS you will do, especially with endless arrows flame. So that's why I suggest going that. Now you don't have to, you can go range attack like I said, and you'll still do fine. For the synthesized effects, you mostly want this to be your defense part. So melee damage reduction, resilience, toughness, and defense pin. And then for the costume, you want focus. And the reason why you want a little bit of focus is if you're going against another archer, or if a melee has socketed evasion, then you want to be able to hit them more. Because as an archer, you're not going to really backstab. So that focus is going to help you just a little bit. You don't need too much focus, just a little bit. And the costume gives you enough. Now and then you also want toughness, range crit damage, and defense pin. And so for the necklace, until 6.1 comes out, which 6.1, if you're an archer, is a really big patch as well. Because in the solo dungeon, there's going to be a new solo dungeon in 6.1. And for the necklace, you'll be able to get a necklace with 1k defense pin on it. And that's going to be really, really huge for archers. But until then, you want to use the Archeum Evernight necklace. So basically, you'll take or decrease received damage, you'll have more stamina and toughness, and a little bit more focus. But like I said, once 6.1 comes out, you're going to want to do that dungeon to get that necklace as soon as possible. Now the Noriet earrings, you'll want these towards later on, and you want to have evasion and agility on them both. Now for archers, you don't really need the dream ring. Now you can get the dream ring if that is something you want to do. Personally at launch, I'm not going to waste my time going for the dream ring. I'm just going to get the Unister ring, which is almost as good. The only time I think you should rush the dream ring is if you're a tank or a melee, for the extra stamina. But honestly, it's about 100 defense pin and 0.5 skill damage difference besides the stamina. So really not that huge of an upgrade. Now you can get the Noriet ring, which you want agility and defense pin on it, or if you have someone in your guild leveling handicraft, and you can get one of these for cheap. Now obviously this won't be for a bit once Unchained comes out, especially since gearing progression is going to be much slower. But if you can get something like, you know, a Delphinad and slowly just increase that up to this over time, you want to get an Aeonad Gale one for the it ignores 422 of target's defense until you upgrade or get a Noriet's ring. Now for your main hand, you do want a Sceptre, socketed out for range critical damage. The synthesized effects, you want agility, defense pin, and range crit damage. Now the reason why we changed to a Sceptre here is because poison weapons, it's going to give that little extra oomph to a poison weapon. Thank you for people in my first Ebonsong video of pointing that out. That was actually a really good idea. So having that is going to do a little bit more damage. And if you go Trickster or Shadehunter, you're going to have a little bit more damage. Now, I personally think it's a little bit better on Trickster, or it's the Sceptre main hand is best on Trickster, due to the fact that you have Innervate, the Innervate Fear combo. Now, with that, is that Innervate burns 40%, or it burns mana equal to 40% of the damage that you do to feared targets. So the more magic attack you have, the more damage Innervate's going to do, and the more mana you burn. So especially since archers are going to be kind of the mage counter in Unchained, it's very, very good for burning their mana. So having the Sceptre for that little extra oomph to burn more mana, as well as the poison weapons damage. Now another one is Shadehunter. Having Shadehunter for you would go around like about that. This is what you would build around Shadehunter. And so what you can do is first you'll have more damage with Cursed Thorns. You'll also have more damage with the Summon Wraith and the Hell Spear. Because normally what you're going to do is you're going to single target and impale them with Hell Spear, Boneyard around them, summon the Wraith with the Ancestral skill on top of them, and then you'll probably snipe them, or just, you'll snipe them or missile rain them or something like that along those lines and do a bunch of damage like that. And then the offhand doesn't really matter too much. I would suggest a dagger or katana, something to shred leather a little bit. I think sword also shreds leather, so sword can work as well. Personally, I'm going to be running a dagger, but the offhand doesn't matter too much. You do want that Sceptre in the main hand though. But for this, you still want range crit damage socketed into it, agility, defense pin, and range crit damage for the synthesized effects. And for the bow, you want the same thing, range crit damage socketed into it, agility, defense pin, and range crit damage for the synthesized effects. Now for the flute, you want attack speed socketed into it. Like I was talking earlier, the flame endless arrows, it attacks very slow, but it does a lot more damage. So the more attack speed you have, the more DPS overall you're going to be doing. Now you want agility, evasion, and move speed synthesized in there. Now technically you could take out move speed and do ranged attack in there if you feel like it, but I like the little extra movement speed. So that's mostly it with this. If you want to take a look at the stats real quick, you have about 50%, almost 50% critical hit rate, 235% almost crit damage, 590 focus, and almost 3500 defense pin, which if you have Deadeye, that'll be another 3500 defense pin right on it in 6.0, as well as in 6.2. Deadeye is a very important skill, or in 6.0 it actually already is an important skill with its rework, but in 6.2 it's going to be even better due to the fact that the longer you stand in it, every second that you're in Deadeye, your range skills grow a meter range up to 20 meters. So that's going to be really, really good. And then for the defense, you have almost 40% evasion, 4800 resilience, 2200 toughness, and then 25.9% melee damage reduction. So effectively, you're cutting a melee damage dealer's damage to you by a quarter. So by 1/4. So that's going to be really good. And then these are the stats unbuffed. Now you can have more evasion as you have increased armor, Haram, and you get more agility. And the more agility you get, the higher evasion goes. So ultimately, towards the the 12k, 13k, 14k gear range, you're gonna have about 50% evasion maybe even to 60%. I don't know exactly what it would be, but you're going to have higher evasion the more agility you have. So the evasion's always going to grow with you, and the more evasion, if you have up to 50%, you're dodging half someone's arrows if you're facing another archer. But that was mostly it for Shadehunter, Trickster, Ebonsong, and Primeval. This is what this video covers for the 4 of them. If you want skill builds, then I just posted a video, I think yesterday, of the skill builds for the top 5 archery classes. Stone Arrow's in there. I'm going to be making a gear video for Stone Arrow here in the next couple days. So if you are a Stone Arrow, stay tuned for that. I am going to be doing that. Other than that, guys, thank you guys for watching. If you do enjoy the content, subscribe, like the video, leave a comment on what you guys want to see next for an ArcheAge Unchained guide. I'm going to be making much more ArcheAge Unchained content, especially whenever the game comes out. I'm going to be uploading a lot, playing a lot. I'm going to be live streaming. So if you guys do enjoy, follow my Twitch. It's in the channel links on my YouTube channel. So you can follow me there. I'll be doing live streams then, or once the game comes out, probably when PTS comes out as well. And other than that, guys, thank you guys for watching again. I really appreciate the support. I hope you guys have a great day.